the European 49er regatta in Denmark. And we're down to really some critical decisions, Marcus. One race to go in the Gold Fleet. Top 16 go through, but there's a log jam of boats in that area.
Yeah, let's look at
explain it to us.
Let's look at the results, overall results. That is that is the overall results before this last race of the day, and only the top 16 boats will make it through. So these top 10 boats are fairly safe. Dylan Fletcher still in the lead, nice lead still with 11 points, but behind that, after that, it's getting quite close. But let's look at page 2 to see who is on the edge of qualifying for the top 16. We have 110 points for the Polish boat in 14th place, then 111 points for the British boat in 15th place, 113 for the last boat to qualify, Makino Takashi from Japan, and then it's 2 Spanish boats that currently do not make the cut, but they're not many points behind. It's only 3 and 4 points, and behind that it's close again. So they're going to have a bit of a battle on for the semi-final group of 16 boats tomorrow.
The boat that I'd like to highlight is currently 19th overall, but only 4 points away from the cut. That's bronze medalist from last year's Olympics, Alan Norregard from Denmark, and second at last year's Europeans. Looks like he may not make the last 16.
That's a pretty big upset. I mean, that should be the talking point of the day, but we're a little bit early yet. For me, there's about 4 or 5 boats that are on the edge of either being very, very happy tonight or very, very disappointed. Because you've got to make top 16 to really get into the business end of the regatta. So that's what we're looking out for in this next race. We've got one to go. For you, Marcus, looking at the front end of the pack, there's some pretty consistent performances coming from 1 or 2 crews.
Yeah, I'm very impressed, and it's very enjoyable to watch how consistent these guys are sailing. They're not taking too many risks. They're playing the shifts and the gusts very smartly, and it's just top-class sailing, and you can tell that these guys have won medals at the Olympics and that they're playing at the America's Cup. It's really good racing to watch. The kids can learn a lot from that. Absolutely.
Brilliant tactics and more importantly, great boat handling and a big tick to the crew work. I've been, not just the New Zealand crew, I'm talking about that top 10. Wow, they're sharp. The crews are brilliant, aren't they, Andy?
I think it goes further than the top 10. I mean, if you think about the Danish boat I was just talking about that may not make it, Alan Norregard, last year at the Europeans, he pioneered a new kind of trapezing called tow trapezing, where he climbed up on the shoulders of his crew. He gave the tiller to the crew, so the crew was doing the steering, but Alan was standing out on the shoulders of his crew and going about a knot faster through the water for that extra righting moment. It was deemed to be too dangerous and was soon banned from sailing, but they did use it to good effect in the Europeans last year. So there's good boat handling all the way down through this fleet. It's the tiny differences that are coming into play, and also keeping a cool head through some very tricky, changeable conditions here in Aarhus.
I remember seeing some shots of Norregard and his crew on the shoulders, and for me, I think it's fantastic, and I can understand why it's been outlawed, but that sort of innovation and lateral thinking, our sport is good at that, and encourage young people, that are getting into the sport, think laterally.
You Kiwis were good at that a while back. I don't know if you still have that same lateral thinking, but we'll find out at the America's Cup later on this year. But so the 470s about 30 years ago were doing similar things.
Let's comment on that shot for a second. We see the race officer, David Campbell-James, and we can see the 49er class flag. That means 5-minute signal has gone off. We're about 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the start. We're looking down the start line from the other side this time around, and the race officer, he's constantly checking the wind and making sure that the course is well aligned, and he did create a well aligned course so far in these very difficult and shifty conditions so close to the shore.
I think the race management team in a lot of regattas, Grade 1 regattas, unsung heroes, and it's a bit of a thankless job. They get out there, and if they get it wrong, they certainly are told in no uncertain terms. the race officer? Is that the father of
Paul Campbell.
Campbell.
Paul?
James.
It's doing the America's Cup
Yes.
stuff, and
Who's been steering one of the Luna Rossa boats in the AC 45s in the America's Cup World Series, and is one of the backup helmsmen on the America's Cup circuit. And David Campbell James, a race officer of great repute these days, also an Olympian in his own right, crewing in the Tornado back in the 1980s.
brilliant. It's so often you find, doesn't it? It's passed on through the families. You know, this wonderful sport of yacht racing that we're all enjoying here in Aarhus. We are coming up to just 3 minutes, 3:07. 3:14 to go. This is the race that's going to decide who goes through to the top 16 tomorrow, and
It's a big moment. It's a big moment for these guys out there, because not making the cut is shattering for.
And it has an
them.
impact, doesn't it, on how they are treated in some cases by their national bodies. It has an effect what sponsors they may or may not get, has an effect what funding they might get from their national body. It's a big deal.
I'm sure there's a lot of money riding on this race for a lot of the sailors out there who are on the cusp of, do they get into the last 16, do they just fall outside? And how you respond to that kind of pressure, that's another question. You can't really let the money get
You really
in the way
got
of
to
your thinking.
just move that to one side and focus on the next 20, 25 minutes.
Okay, so here we are. We're in the final few minutes leading up to the start, and here's the French boat just jibing away. Didn't like that position. They came in too early to be able to hold that. They probably weren't really... they were probably just testing time on distance, and where will the French go? They've been having a good day today. So still 2 minutes to go. And the Portuguese 15, they've liked this pin end of the start an awful lot, and it looks like they want it again. And there's the Irish boat, had a good race in the last race, but they're going to be struggling to make the cut for the final 16. Another boat, Spanish 9, the yellow and red emblem on their sail. The Telekia brothers, I think they also like this pin end of the line. So it's interesting how you see the same characters book a similar part of the start line. It just suits their sailing style.
In some ways, isn't it, when you've done 4 races in a day, if you've had success in a zone of the start line, and the conditions haven't changed a lot today, really, it's just up and down and oscillating, you probably use a similar approach. If it's been good to you, you stay with the plan.
But Marcus, we've had the privilege of watching from overhead, from getting the overhead view on the GPS, and we've seen Peter Burling, for example, come out near the committee boat and find good breeze and be able to get good position soon out of the right-hand end of the line, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if the boats get the acceleration right and are able to climb right out of the start, then you can start anywhere. And Peter Burling certainly seems to be very good at that.
But what's really important, isn't it, is to get a lane, to get a gap that you can actually sail off the line until you make the decision to tack. If you're forced to tack away, often it gets you out of phase. So it's finding a lane to sail in. Andy, coming up to half a minute to go.
Okay, so here are the two pin-end favourite boats. They just love it down here, the Portuguese and the Spanish. But the French, we saw them having a look 2 minutes ago. Clearly they were just eyeing things up for the pin-end. But, I can't see how they're going to get anything out of that. And actually, they've gone head to win. That's not a great place for the French to be. I think they've got quite a lot to do.
Same with the Austrians. The Austrians trying to head out to the right-hand side, do a port start. Risky, risky, risky.
So there go the French. They're going to try and sneak through one of the gaps, through all the starboard tackers that have right of way. They can't find one. The French are ducking, and they've given away a bit of distance. And we see one of the top British boats also tacking early onto port. So not a great start for them. A very nice start for Spain 9 on the left of picture.
I can give you the positions of the leading boats. Dylan Fletcher has started down on the left-hand side. Not a good start, very buried in a bunch of boats. And then the French boat, who is second overall. Well, that's not correct. That'd be just with this place. He's also started down there. Left side seems as if it was biased a little bit. But Peter Burling up at the committee boat again.
Okay, now that was the series leaders that we saw get a bad start and tack away onto port very early off the start line, looking to get out of jail by ducking underneath the fleet and hoping to find some decent breeze on the right-hand side, but they will be second rank for the early stages of this race.
Peter Burling heading out to the middle. He started at the committee boat, and he's in the middle at the moment. A little bit down compared to the boats left and right, but he does have a clean lane at the moment. Let me zoom in a little bit. No, he's just behind and windward of the Croatian boat, so not a very good position for him at the moment.
So the Italian boat doing very well on the left-hand side at the moment. That's Angelella and Zucchetti. Looking over their shoulder, looking over their back shoulder, that's always a good sign. Looking over your back shoulder suggests that you're doing quite well. You haven't got too much to look at up front in terms of opposition, and looks like they've got plenty of clear air to make the best of their position on the left-hand side.
That is the Italian boat, or?
Yes, Italy 22. We're seeing on the left-hand side of the course, and there we see the Spanish, who started off the pin end of the line, going across on port tack. They've put in a relatively early port tack to get back across to the middle of the course.
Yeah, Zucchetti heading out far to the left-hand side, the move that was so good for the Austrians last race, or was it the race before? We know it's a risky move, so he keeps going. That's something that we don't usually see on the top guys. They don't nail the corner like this.
So what we saw from the Spanish, who are currently leading, is they came off the left-hand end of the line, but they took their opportunity to tack across to the middle, which is now what we see the Italians have done as well. But as Marcus said, they've left it late. They're taking their risks. They're taking their chances. But
bit of a déjà vu of that situation we saw in the first race with the Austrians, heading out so far left. But at the moment, it seems to work out for them.
Well, it's all good if you can hold a nice lane and the wind direction doesn't go to the right-hand side. But if it's the old high risk, huge reward, but high risk. If you get it wrong, you pay a big, big price. The Italian team are certainly throwing it out there, and they're out here right over on the left-hand side, looking for the wind to stay in the left. If it does, they could have a golden moment as they come in towards the first mark.
Well, they need to do something special in this race, because they are one of those boats that are somewhere on the margins of being able to get through into the top 16. Currently, if they held this first place, they would be 19th overall, so it still wouldn't be enough, but they're not many points off, so depending on what would happen behind them, they could still get into this race. So this is tense times for that Italian team.
So they're saying, right, we'll take a risk, and we might get the big reward, but they are reliant on the points that happen behind them for them to go through, because they're down in 19. They're quite a long ways off that 16th. There's a good, solid...
well, it's 5 points?
5 points.
I mean, 5 points.
Well, 5 points you can make up. I think they're in with a shout. If it
looks
works
soft there,
out.
doesn't it? So a lot could change if you're going to get these kind of changeable conditions.
Certainly it's starting to, as the afternoon has gone on, we've talked about it in the previous race, the conditions are becoming quite unstable, certainly in the top third of the course.
And it looks like the right-hand boats at the moment are the ones that are profiting. Still very changeable across the course, but the Italians that went on the far left not doing as well as they were just a couple of minutes ago. Now it's the Spanish Telequia brothers that are leading, followed by the Portuguese, Lima Costa, and the winners of the previous race, the Austrians, Delacarth and Resch.
As we speak, I look, there's a big a good puff of breeze coming across the course.
And actually, the Spanish mainsail turning inside out, so from crouching in the boat, they're actually slightly overpowered for a moment. So that's how big that gust is, but I think it's going to be quite short-lived.
The Portuguese boat coming across. I think that is Lima. Tacking, having to work the shifts. The wind is moving round and the pressure is up and down a good, anything from 5 knots to 15 knots. And wind shift wise, it's going through 20, 25 degrees. So there's certainly lots of opportunities for passing lanes, heading up to the top mark for the first time.
These two boats we're looking at, they have a chance of going round in the lead, but there are boats attacking them from the left-hand side. And we see an Italian boat there come across from the middle. from the left-hand side of the course.
We're going to see the windward gate in the picture in a few seconds. They're closing in now. Austrians doing well right here.
Challenging the Telekia brothers for bragging rights to get round these marks in first place. Who's going to make it? Austrians tack in there, quite a dodgy place to tack, but they get away with it. So the Austrians are going to steal Spanish thunder. It will be Austria first round, the same boat that won the previous race. And they go around in a lovely gust.
So Delacarth loving the conditions. Up goes that familiar red and white spinnaker. One of the spinnakers left over from the Olympic Games.
Middle of picture is Danish, sail number 3. That tells us they finished 3rd in the worlds last time round. And that's the boat that's getting the cheer, and they need that cheer. They need that local push from the people of Aarhus, because they are on the cusp of going out of this competition unless they get a decent result today.
And with that result, with the 5th place in this race, they'd actually be 14th now. So they're looking good to qualify for tomorrow's next round. At the moment, if they stay where they are, they're in good shape.
So around the top mark for the first time, and we're certainly monitoring the points for the cut-off into the top 16. What's noticeable in this one, the New Zealanders and the Australians aren't featuring.
The wind has dropped a little bit, and yes, it looks like there's going to be some logjam at the top mark, and that the Kiwis may be stuck in that logjam, but we're looking at the boats going further down the track, and it looks soft for the leaders.
Well, I just saw it, we're not on it, but certainly the top mark,
there
there's
we
a
are
logjam, and there we see Burley.
He's stuck in all kinds of trouble.
He actually got, I think he might have got fouled out by a Danish boat, which put him about. A Danish boat Liebau attacked and put Burling into irons. So he struggled around the top mark. So this is...
straight into a jibe set.
After being very consistent, Burling is back.
Is that Jonas Vara rounding now? Number
not sure that's the right
132.
sail number for Jonas Wara. There's the leaders. There's the Austrian boat far right, but it looks like the Telekia brothers. The Spanish sail with the blue Jenica is leading at the moment, going away, going lower and faster than the red kites. So and the Telekia is jibing away on port jibe, enjoying that gust.
And they are also on the cusp. They are 18th overall, the Kalashia brothers. So if they can pull off a win, Marcus, what are your points saying for the Spanish team?
They're currently
going in
2nd
18th,
position.
does that put them in with a shot?
Currently in 2nd position. They're 12th overall, so good
that would
chance
lift
to
them
make
up.
the cut.
But it looks like maybe the Austrians are moving into the lead.
Yep,
Will they be able
have.
to? Well, in fact, they rounded that mark in first place, but so it would be maintaining their lead, and if they manage to win this race, it would be the 2nd consecutive race for them, which would be very impressive.
Telekia brothers in 2nd place, and it looks like they're going to stay there, but it does look like they overstood the mark. Do they have to pack up the spinnaker? Can they still make the mark? It does look like they overstood dramatically, by the way. I think they'll have to pack up the spinnaker in a second. Yep. That's what we can see from our studio. They had to pack up early, and that's costing them at least 1 place, it looks like.
They're just coming into picture. You just
the
saw them briefly.
Italians overtook him.
There are the Austrians in the lead, leading their race after having won the previous race handsomely, so enjoying these slightly lighter conditions.
So that's the 2nd lap. That's Mark 2, the bottom mark gate, the fleet going round. And Delacarth was ahead at the first mark. He's done a good downwind.
Gives us a little
leading
time.
At the 2nd mark.
Gives us a little time to have a look at the overall results and have a look at who cuts off and who's going to make it. So that's the top 10. Dylan Fletcher is still in the lead, but let's look at page 2, who's currently making the cut, and that is Alan Norregard is in 13th place, French boat in 14th, 15th boat from Great Britain, and the Japanese boat has dropped out.
So it really has made it, after 1 lap, we've got 3 laps to go, 2 laps to go, we're seeing the impact that changing in the fleet is having on the ability to go through to the top 16 tomorrow.
The points are still extremely close in that part of the race, in that part of the leaderboard, so I'm sure it's not going to stay that way. So there's still opportunity for the Japanese and some of the other teams just outside the top 16 to break back in, and the Japanese are in 4th place as they go up this second beat. So they're doing the best they can to get back into competition and get into the top 16 for tomorrow's racing.
Looks like a tracking dropout on that second place boat. I'm sure Delacarth hasn't lost the lead like that. Let's go back to live images. Here we are, boats. We can see the Austrians in the center of the picture. They're going nice and fast. That was a little tracking failure we just had there. And they're still in the lead.
Up into second place, it looks like it might be a British boat, Nick Asher and Finn Sterrett.
Exactly, that's Nick Asher, and behind that again is the Spanish boat.
Okay, so Nick Asher, he's a double 470 world champion, but hasn't actually been to the Olympics. There's few people who have actually won the 470 worlds more than once. He's one of them, but the boat just didn't suit him. It was hard for him to stay down to weight as a skipper in the lighter weight 470, and he's really enjoyed the switch to the 49er, but he's still very new to it.
That was attacked by Morrison and Rhodes, number 77. We haven't seen much of him yet, but both with a great history in 49er skiff sailing, 2 Olympics,
World Championship win.
World champions.
So yes, they're in 5th place at the moment, so they're certainly in the hunt. It's a bit of a better race for the British teams who haven't featured that strongly today. But we should say that it is a British team still in the lead. Dylan Fletcher and Alan Syne just putting in a great show of consistency without actually starring in many of these races.
So you're saying Nick Asher has come from 470. Yeah. How long has he been in the 49er?
He got in about the end of last year. And so it's early days for him, and he's sailing with a guy called Finn Sterrett, who doesn't have much history in the 49er either. And I question whether it's the right thing for 2 guys who are new to the 49er to get into the boat together. But so far, so good for them. It seems like things are coming together, but I just think there's so much good 49er experience in the UK. Sometimes maybe it's good to spend a few months sailing with someone who's got a history in the boat.
Well, and there's a new team in there, or from not new overall, but one of the teams fighting to get into the top 16. Makino and Takahashi from Japan. It's good to see them up there. They were obviously good in the middle of the week in the lighter, flukier conditions, but they're enjoying this last race, so they're in the fight also. Maybe not. No, they're not really in the running to get up to 15th. But this is certainly a better showing by the Japanese team.
Here we also get an indication of the distance to leader. Delacarth and Resch currently 17-meter lead. Telekia brothers 15 meters behind, 30 meters behind that second-placed boat, and the Japanese boat having a great race.
And it's really different names that we're seeing. Apart from the Austrians in the lead, after that, there are some different names that we haven't spoken much about so far today, whereas some of the more familiar names, such as the Kiwis, the 2 Kiwi boats, not seeing much of them in these lighter conditions later on in the afternoon.
Well, it's interesting. A slight condition change. It's got a little bit lighter. I don't think it's got any less fluky, but certainly the wind speed has dropped. Different players start coming to the front of the pack. It's interesting how that dynamic of 1 or 2 knots can have such an impact on who gets to the front. But I am very impressed in the last 2 races by Delacarth. He's enjoying the lighter going, isn't he? And he's looking good. Speaking
of speed differences, you can see how different the boat speeds are currently. Some boats are tacking. The Austrian boat now 3 knots, 7 knots. You know, dramatic speed differences due to the changing breeze, and of course, when they come out of attack, they are slower.
And a nice acceleration of speed there as they bear away and get ready to hoist around the mark. And the Austrians have made a nice gain on the rest of the fleet as they go into that customary jibe set that we've seen so much of today.
Certainly jibed in a light spot. We can see there's not a lot of breeze. There's just a little bit of pressure coming on to the Austrian team. But the reason they've jibed is to come across and really close down the tactical risk of the boats coming round the left-hand gate as the first boat goes in there now. I can't quite pick them up, Andy.
Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes.
So they've come through.
Yep, they have. They've risen up from 5th to 2nd in the last couple of minutes, and they do an early jibe set. This is the move of the day, the jibe set. And I'm wondering, oh yes, there goes Alan Norregard. He goes round in 3rd or 4th place round the far mark. And these are crucial times for him because he is just inside qualifying. And Marcus, I don't know if you can tell us where that would put Alan Norregard at this stage.
That would put him into 12th place. So good race for him, and certainly in a secure place at the moment to qualify for the top 16.
And the Italian boat looks very good. You see the leader in the middle of picture up top going much higher, but the Italians look like they're going to make a big gain. So the boats that carried on the shore side near our commentary position look like they made a gain on the front 2 boats.
You know what surprises me is that Dylan Fletcher's managing to stay under the radar completely today, and he's still in the lead. Overall, he's still in the lead, currently in 16th position, but he's got 60 points, and that goes to show how well he sailed at the previous races.
He must have been very strong in the week, but what it has done, he had quite a lot of leverage or quite a lot of points advantage on the field. Effectively, if he stays around 16th, he's going to possibly be still leading the regatta because Burling and Hansen are back, but the field's got tight. We're going to get to the stage, I think, by the end of the regatta and probably in the finals that we're going to have a situation where someone hasn't won the regatta with a race to spare or 2 races to spare. So I think we're in for a really great climax to the European 49ers here.
Let's watch the battle on this downwind and see how that's going to transpire. Nico Delicat, the lead has shrunken up a little bit. It's only 25-meter lead now. He's battling with Morrison and Rhodes and the Italian boat Zucchetti. And let's go to top view.
So that's a very nice gain for the Italians so far on this leg, putting themselves right back in contention for winning this race. And they, if you remember, got the pin end start. They were the most extreme boat going left in the early stages of this race, and they've managed to hang in there. They're not one of the more fancy teams, but they're having a great race here.
Certainly are, and I think Morrison is also starting to string this one together, and he would be very happy if he can finish today with an 8.5 and a good scoring race in this last one. That'll lift him up into the top 5 or 6.
Nice shot of the boats heading towards that leeward gate from our aerial cam, and we see the Austrians dropping their spinnaker in first place, going around the left hand gate mark, heading out to the right side of the course. On the upwind now, Italians coming in as second.
It's really tightened up there, hasn't it? It's very, very tight between 2nd and 5th place there. Suddenly a whole gaggle of boats all jammed together, which will play into the hands of the Austrians going out to the right-hand side with a nice, healthy lead again. I think they've stretched a little bit.
So that's around the bottom mark for the second time. This will be the last windward beat. Up to the top, down to the bottom, and then, Marcus, you'll be doing the analysis for us and being able to tell us the good story of who's going to go through, especially around and get that valuable 16th position.
Well, a little bit of trivia that I get from the analytics at the moment is the number of maneuvers that these boats have been doing, and there is no clear correlation. One boat that sticks out is Stevie Morrison, who has done the most maneuvers, 17, and let's look at he's done 12 tacks, so he's done a lot of tacking upwind, and it must have paid because he was 9th around the first mark and climbed up to 2nd for 1 mark rounding. He's down in 3rd now.
So you would think maybe that fewer maneuvers would have you further up the course. Every maneuver slows you down, but maybe it's a function of being such a shifty day that making those extra tacks the way that Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes have has actually meant that they've taken advantage or greater advantage of some of the changes in wind as they go up the course.
Well, every maneuver a boat does on top of the minimum maneuvers you need to do to get around the course is an investment, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But if Stevie Morrison did more maneuvers than all the top sailors in the top 10, it means that his investment must have come good.
But it shouldn't be a surprise to see Stevie Morrison moving up there. He's 5th at the Olympics. I said he had a 3rd in the Europeans in 2010. And Andy, relatively quite a long time ago, he won the World Championships in 2007. So good pedigree.
Yeah, he was unstoppable 6 years ago. In 2007, he won pretty much everything there was to win: the Worlds, the Europeans, and the pre-Olympics. And he looked like one of the hot favourites to win the gold medal in the 2008 games, but finished 9th there. But he's kept on plugging away. Hasn't quite risen to those heights on such a consistent basis in recent years. But 5th at the games, he was in contention for a bronze medal going into the last day of the Olympics. Didn't quite work out for him, but he and his friend from Exmouth in the West Country, Ben Rhodes, they've been friends since they were in short trousers, and a great partnership.
Again, it just is an illustration of how much depth there is in GBR sailing at this Olympic level, that you seem to just be able to reel off the numbers, don't you? And you have a whole bunch of people in the classes that are very, very strong and capable of winning at a world level, European level, and of course your wonderful Olympic program.
And
back to the racing.
Here we have the boats closing into the windward gate. Interesting perspective. We have Delacarth in the middle of the course, Angelella, Zucchetti following him, Morrison Rhodes following him. He's a fairly safe controlling position. He might want to be a little bit further to the right, but it's fairly safe. He's got a 50-meter lead. He's going to be hard to beat in this race.
He's got a bit more breeze to do that defending with as well, which must make him feel more comfortable. They're fully stretched at the moment going up this beat, but it does look like as they get closer to the top marks that it's going to be a little bit lighter, but not quite as soggy and as unpredictable as we saw on previous roundings. The breeze is on the higher phase of this race at the moment in terms of wind strength.
Well, the bronze medalist from the Olympics in London, who got Alan Norregard, who looked like he was at risk of not getting through to the top 16. This result will be very pleasing for the Danish fans. A 4th, on my reckoning, will get him in there.
He gets the biggest cheer as they go around the windward mark as well. The local crowd really want to see him go through. It'll be a huge disappointment if he didn't make it, but as you say, Peter, it seems like he's coming good just when he needed to.
Well, and I think you want the stars like Alan Norregard to be in the finals, to be honest. He's certainly, with a track record, 3rd at the Worlds in 2012 and that bronze medal at the Olympics. It's great to see the medalists out here, and you want them in the finals. They're the benchmark, really, that everyone else can measure themselves against.
The other one I'd like to know about is Jonas Wara, is the 2008 Olympic champion. Is he likely to go through?
Sorry to interrupt, Andy. We have a cross here between the Austrian and the Italian boat, and it looks like Angelella Zucchetti has just closed in and is about to overtake the Austrian boat. They're actually slipping in on the inside on that first windward mark. They're only 3 meters apart now. So going off to the left-hand side has paid handsomely for them.
It's been a really good race for the Italians, hasn't it? They took their risks early on. They banged hard left, but they obviously liked what they saw, and they are really chasing hard for this race win. That's got to be helping out Stevie Morrison on the right of picture, GBR 77, the front two tying themselves each other in a bit of a match race. Morrison and Rhodes doing their own thing further down to leeward, but any one of these 3 boats you would still think had a good chance of winning this race.
See the effect there when Delacarth actually started to put turbulent breeze back onto the trailing boat, how quickly they lose performance.
Now let's have a look at that windward gate mark rounding, and as we look out of the studio, which side of the course would we take? I would tend to the shore side. I think the Italian boat is in a better position. If the Austrians tack now, they're in light winds, and I think if the Italians go around, they're going to catch a great gust right there. It's already hitting them.
It's quite a big gate, isn't it? There's quite a bit of separation between the markers, which means immediately the Italian guys will be out of phase, and if they can get a bit of pressure or a bit of angle, we could see a lead change.
Now the Italians are heading where they gained, so that's a good place to be in. And here comes Alan Norregard. The crowd is cheering, and he is in a safe position to qualify.
Is that Norregard? This is Norregard in middle of picture now. That was Jonas Wara, the 2008 champion, who went around ahead. So he's had a good gain, Jonas Wara.
Yep, he's overall in 8th position, by the way.
Alan Norregard must have dropped a few at the top of this beat.
Still 12th overall, so both Danish boats safely qualify for the top 16.
But the Austrians look very threatened in the middle of the course.
Indeed, it's time to look on the 3D graphics. Let's have a look at the 3D graphics, and we'll see that Angelella Zucchetti and the shore side that we were favoring, that has come really well. And Delacarth is paying.
Then you look at the Danish boat. You look at Jonas Wara in the middle of picture, and it looks like Wara might be he's certainly got a tactical advantage on the Italians. Can he get down inside them and actually take the controlling position? But this has been a disastrous leg so far for the Austrians. They're only in 4th place, but they could get rolled by even more boats. They're trying to get back onto the shore side of the course to limit the damage. But it's been a painful few moments for the Austrians, who have seen that lead slip away, with the Italians seizing the lead from them. And Jonas Wara, we haven't really spoken about him much in this race. I don't know really where he's come from, but suddenly he's in 2nd place.
And there were a couple that came through, Wara, and just back from that group also was Burling actually made a big inroad. So I think it's got really unstable and a bit fickle on the course. But it's Wara who has really come back from pretty deep. So he obviously had a brilliant 3rd windward beat.
And it's interesting seeing the count. So he's already 260 meters behind the leader. That's how much he's lost on the Italians in such a short distance. And Morrison and Rhodes, they were in the top 3. They're 218 meters back from the leader. So it's been a wonderful gain for the Italians.
And by the way, the Italians overall are in 16th position. If they win this race, they actually qualify for the final tomorrow.
Depending on what happens behind them, presumably.
Absolutely. They're jumping back and forth. They were 15th a second ago, then 16th and 17th. They're just on the crisp.
But we talked about them off the start, and I guess they said, right, we'll throw the dice down. Remember, they took a lot of leverage. I think it was them to the left.
It was.
And they've come good. So, you know,
they've
nothing
done all
like
they can.
Nothing like having that flair, is it? That is.
They will be looking intently when they cross this finish line. If they win this race, I don't think they'll be celebrating straight away. They'll be looking back up to see who else is in contention. Will anyone be able to displace them? Actually, truth be told, they may not even know how close they are to being on the cusp.
And let's switch to 3D graphics and have a look at the finish gate, and that's where they're heading, and they're just coming into the image. And Angelella Zucchetti, there was a little tracking error right there, heading towards the finish. He's in the lead. Nice, handsome lead for him.
And has Jonas Wara gone too far? It's hard to tell.
I can go to top view, and we can have a look. We'll see from there. Yeah, it does look like he's gone a little too far.
But there's not much in it. The gap to the leader is closing. But there you look and you wonder how anyone's going to take it off the Italians. It looks like Angelella and Zucchetti are going to take this race. And will that be enough to get them through into the final 16?
Provisionally, it does. They're in 15th place. It does look like it's enough for them. And what's the finishing order for this race? Second place, it's Wara and Lang. Here they go. Good job on them. It looks like they have qualified overall.
Just doing exactly what they needed to when it mattered most. And there's Jonas Wara.
Yeah, he was coming in very steeply there, but he made it.
The
Second
Italians
place
have
for
reaped the
him.
reward, haven't they, of taking a bit of a risk and throwing it out there, but they brought it home, and they will be thrilled if at the end of this they get into that top 16. It wasn't looking too good going into the final race. But
not a good last lap for the Austrians, but still third place for them. In fourth place, it's probably Alan Norregard, but it's too early to call. They haven't finished yet.
So that would put Norregard through as well, Marcus? I think so.
I think, yeah, sure. They were quite safe. They're 12th overall. Morrison and Rhodes just finishing ahead of them.
So anyway, those local favourites are through. So we got two very good Danish teams showing there in the top 5, and both of those going through to the final 16. And I think all 5 of these that we're looking at would go through, but we're still waiting to hear how other people do, and will the Italians who won that race actually be able to hold on and get through into the last 16?
Well, we'll just have to wait a little to see until the race, obviously the back markers come through to get that final cut-off, but we look through the top 10, and there were some movers there. Wara really moved up through the field. Norregard had a good one. Burling came
I can
back
actually
from
give you. I can give you the figures. Jonas Vara, he started in 14th place.
Great comeback.
Climbed up 12th, 11th, 9th, 4th, and then up 2nd. That is a seriously.
That's impressive.
Yeah, moving through the fleet like that. That is really showing some skill.
That is, and also Burling and Chuk had a pretty good climb too.
How did their climb look, Marcus? When can you do that off your
Burling
data?
and Chuk started out 20th. Climbed up to 7th by the 5th lag, and that's where they stayed.
So isn't this a bit of a sign, isn't it, of the teams that get caught down the back, if they can move through the field to get a score that's a keeper, get a score that's not a drop. You come off the water a bit frustrated, but hey, that's good enough.
Well,
we'll
there's two things that win your regattas. First is consistency. So you want to be up there at the top 5, top 6, top 7 at the windward mark. But you don't always manage to do that, and you got to be able to climb up to those positions. Someone who can do that, that's the people who can win the regattas.
I remember Russell Coote saying to me once, he said, it's the races that you recover from, and they're a keeper, are regatta winners, not the races you win. And I think that was really illustrated by that wonderful performance by Wara. He came through from pretty deep, and that was pretty impressive.
Now let's look at the overall standings, preliminary.
So this is it.
This is it. Let's see.
Well, we thought they had a bad race in that last race, but they came through. They finished 7th in that race, and look who we have at the top of the leaderboard: Peter Burling and Blair Chuk. Now, silver medalists now leading this regatta. They've taken over from Dylan Fletcher and Alan Sine.
And what a solid day! A 2nd place, a 1st place, 3rd, and then 7th, coming back from the dumps. Really amazing series of the day, and equivalently opposite a bad day for Dylan Fletcher.
And look at the nationalities: New Zealand, Great Britain, and Germany represented the top 3 as they are on this commentary panel.
Yeah,
so there's something lucky about having the same nationality.
I hope we can keep that battle going in the coming
Marcus
days. That
knew
should
that.
be fun.
That's why he picked you. He was a bit marginal about picking you, Andy, but he thought, no, we think we'll have a Briton there. We better have Andy along.
It's probably the same order in age here, and I don't want to get into body weight.
Well, this is a battle of the heavyweights, and at the moment the heavyweights are winning.
All right, so now that's looking really nice. In 4th place, we've got the French team, Julien de Ortoli, and then Varlang, the first Danish team, in 5th place overall.
And look how vulnerable he was with that disqualification. He's managed to shake off the disqualification and go through in 5th overall. Very good.
And look at how tight the points are. We have the 2 leading boats. They're pulled away a little bit with 54 and 55 points, but behind that, there's nothing in it. It's for the rest of the top 10, it's 10 points. But let's go to page 2 now and have a look at who makes the cut. Let's remember, this is provisional. And look at the points. It looks awfully close. 14th place, Angelella Zucchetti with 106 points, and with this race win in the last race. But then that's 106 points in 15th place, 107 points in 16th place, and it goes on like that. 107, 107. That's an ugly cut.
It's tough. And the other key thing for me, Andy, with your hat on, there's 4 Brits in the top 10?
Yes,
They really do have depth in the top 10, don't you?
Well, I look
program?
at that with my Union Jack pork pie hat on again, and I see Nick Asher and Finn Sterrett. They were up in second, possibly vying for the lead in that race. They dropped to 8th in that race, and look at the difference that made. They're 1 point away from making the top 16. So they will look upon that race as an opportunity lost, and there'll be a few people feeling like that tonight. But as Marcus said, these are provisional results. Sometimes you get a flurry of protests at this stage in the regatta, don't you, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they will try to make it into the Gulf Fleet with any way they can, and yeah, you do get protests because people want to have that little extra point.
Replay of the finish, and a very, very happy team.
That's Angelella Sughetti.
So celebrating the race win, possibly celebrating the fact that they've gone through. They look like they are confirmed to go through to the final 16. So good on the Italians.
Well, thanks, guys. What a brilliant day. Perfect. Picture postcard. Couldn't have asked for more. Our first day of coverage here at the European 49er Championships. Tomorrow is going to be fascinating. We'll have the women carrying on with their semi-finals, and that's been just great in the FX. And there'll be more racing from the men. They will have the top 16 going through the semi-finals. Come and watch again tomorrow. It's been brilliant bringing this coverage. Thanks, guys. And, thanks and good evening.